Chaos Jumbles. Approximately 350 years ago, a major disaster struck northeastern California, forever changing a 2.6 square mile or 6.73 square kilometer patch of ground. As a regional moderate earthquake struck, likely registering in as a low-magnitude 5 range event, an unexpected effect happened at the recently emplaced cluster of 6 highly viscous lava domes at California's Lassen Peak volcano. All of a sudden, the northwestern portion of one of these large dacite and rhyolite domes termed Dome C began moving, as a landslide commenced. The size of the landslide then started primary landslide snowballing until within 15 seconds a 2,000-foot long and 2,600-foot wide patch of rock collapsed. And since this rock quickly lost 1,640 feet or 500 meters in height, it accelerated to very high speeds. As tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands of trees were bulldozed by a towering and advancing wall of rock, the debris avalanche continued to accelerate, being cushioned by a patch of air which reduced underlying friction almost like what frequently occurs to a pyroclastic flow. In only 30 seconds, this landslide traveled an entire mile, running up the sides of large hills at speeds of 112 miles per hour or 190 kilometers per hour. If you somehow happened to be watching this landslide occur from the edge of Table Mountain, 350 feet above the valley floor, you still wouldn't have been safe. As, 55 seconds in, the mass of moving rock began running up Table Mountain, destroying everything up to 400 feet or 122 meters above the valley floor. By the time this landslide finally stopped its forward motion, 300,000 trees and 1,747 acres had been covered in a layer of rock which averaged 14 meters or 46 feet thick. In other words, that particular landslide involved the volume of 94.22 million cubic meters of rock. However, since this slide left behind a large bite out of the existing lava dome, an oversteepened portion of the remaining lava dome existed, leading to the generation of 2 additional large-volume landslides. These latter 2 events, likely second and third landslides, occurred within 72 hours of the first slide, with volumes of 49.17 million cubic meters and 19.53 million cubic meters of rock respectively. In a brief amount of time, a large swatch of landscape had been bulldozed over in some areas by more than 100 feet of rock, creating what is today known as the Chaos Jumbles, which is the name given to these landslide deposits. All told, 163 million cubic meters of rock was moved, equating to a volume of 65,200 Olympic-sized swimming pools. While it was initially thought that this series of landslides occurred as a result of several closely spaced phreatic eruptions, later evidence disproved this notion. While an earthquake or series of regional earthquakes may have been the final straw that generated this ancient disaster, it was a long time coming. After being emplaced in a series of 3 eruptions between around 830 and 900 CE, the steep and thick lava domes began to slowly cool. During this process, they contracted, causing their slopes to become even more steep than they were beforehand. Erosion also began to eat away at these domes through wind and water, also increasing its slope until it passed a threshold which meant even a minor earthquake would trigger a collapse. While there is a large margin of error in the age of the Chaos Jumbles, our best guess places the landslides as all occurring around the year 1670. This just so happens to be only cinder cone relation 4 years after the 1666 CE eruption of cinder cone, which constructed an 8.45 square kilometer basaltic andesite lava field. Since the margins of errors on the formation of both features overlap, I suggest that earthquakes associated with the preceding phase of rising magma before cinder cone erupted may have triggered the collapse of Dome C, generating the Chaos Jumbles. Another large landslide. The Chaos Jumbles were surprisingly not the first major volcanic landslide to occur in the same portion of the Lassen Peak complex, as while those deposits only traveled 5 kilometers from their source, an older debris avalanche deposit exists which traveled 21 kilometers or 13 miles. That deposit originated from a collapse of a very large dacite lava dome known as Hill 8283 more than 130,000 years ago. As a final note, I would like to thank my new YouTube channel member Marina Grubisa for supporting my work.